episode 20 of the On the Air podcast starring you. Today's guest is from Atlanta, Georgia. He's a corporate training manager, comic book lover, faithful black man, and Atlanta sports fanatic. But he just refers to himself as the legend. You can follow him on Twitter at The Real Shitty. The one and only Corey Gresham. Hey guys, it's Brittany. I was interviewed on episodes 14 and 15. I had my two-part interview there where Corey interviewed me. So I'm taking over this week because he is actually going to be a guest on his own show. So yes, that's why you're hearing my lovely voice and not his. So as we all may know, it's October, and this month is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm not going to talk too much or speak too long about it. I'm pretty sure you've all been bombarded with signs, posters, pink ribbons, and things of that sort. I just wanted to give my own little 2 cents about breast cancer. I have a breast cancer survivor in my family, my aunt, and she's been a breast cancer survivor for 7 or 8 years, I want to say. So our family has been extremely thankful and proud of that. My mother had a few scares with breast cancer, but fortunately hers did not turn out to be that way. So I'm thankful for that as well. But just a couple of interesting things that I happened to run across or see, just some statistics or whatever. And one thing that I also think that we forget is that even though it's more likely to affect women, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. Breast cancer does also affect men. Men and women can test positive for a defective gene, which is either BRCA1 or BRCA2. That can lead to a future diagnosis of breast cancer and can be detected in their children that can have this defective gene as well. So we definitely need to make sure that although it's not as common, that it can also affect men. So since October is breast cancer awareness month, many imaging centers offer mammograms at reduced rates. I believe most health insurances do cover mammograms. I believe that you can go to fda.gov. You can find some centers that are offering mammograms for free or at reduced rates. So I feel that it's important for men and women to go and get tested just to see. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I know that most physicians like to wait to do mammograms until women are like, I think maybe like 40 is the age now. But breast cancer is a leading cause of death in women ages 20 to 59. So you can't be denied a mammogram. If you want to go and get tested now, if you're under the age of 40 or 45, you cannot be denied if you want to go and get tested. I'm going to go and get tested just to be on the safe side. So when breast cancer is detected early at its localized stage, the 5-year survival rate is 100%. So, who's to say if you wait until you're 40, who's to say that you're going to detect it on time? So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I just think that breast cancer is something that a lot of us should take more seriously, even men. I feel that men should definitely want to be a little bit more educated on this, seeing as that you all have mothers, wives, daughters, friends, whoever, and even you yourself can be affected by breast cancer. So that's just my little word for the day. Thought I would just share that information. I'm not a physician or anything. I'm not in the health field. So if I said anything that is incorrect, I am very much open to conversation and to be corrected. But these are just some of the stats and information that I got off of the Susan G. Komen website. It's some really great information on that website. It's www.komen.org. You can read some really interesting things about breast cancer there. Find events, find ways that you can donate for fundraisers and things of that sort. So, yes, in light of October, I wanted to just give that brief little segment about breast cancer. And if there's anyone who is listening, who has friends or family that are breast cancer survivors, or who is a breast cancer survivor, or what have you, I would love for you to tweet me at Pinky_Balboa with either a picture of you or that person. And I would love to just share the good story and show how, detection can really help, and how it's nothing light to take, but that it is something that can be fought. Now let's get started with the show. So, on today's show, everyone is hearing my voice because we're actually going to be interviewing the host of the show, Corey.
What up, though? What's happening?
I thought that it would be a good idea. Well, apparently other people thought as well that it would be a good idea for you to be interviewed on the show. Just to have a way for people to get to know you and who you are instead of you always being other people's business.
I was actually shocked that there was a want for that. So this is pretty cool. This is interesting. Yeah.
You nervous?
A little bit. I kind of see what it feels like now. like when you told me, I was like,
because you don't know what I'm going to ask.
No, I don't. And it's like, I kind of get it. Like, you know what you're going to ask. And when I'm interviewing other people, they're like, what do you want to know? And I'm thinking like, yo, you in good hands. Like, I know what I'm going to ask, but they don't know. So right. This is cool to be in the hot seat. So.
Oh, so if people don't recognize my voice, it's Brittany. Look at me.
Oh, fuck it up.
My own
Hey, you've been doing that too.
Because I haven't corrected people since before now. But it's not about me. It's about you. Brittany, Pinky Balboa, Corey's girlfriend.
Hey,
and today, interviewer.
Hey.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I might have a sound effect for that. Dun, dun, dun.
No.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it extra dramatic.
No, we're not going to do that.
How you going to tell what I can
do? It's my show today.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So, let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was going to start off with something more like recent and current, but I'm going to get to that later. One of my favorite episodes that you've had is your Father's Day special with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my personal favorite episodes. I don't know about anybody else, but that's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
So in the episode, you explained how you have, 9 brothers and sisters?
I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. So I'm the youngest of my dad's 9 and the oldest of my mom's 2.
Wow. How was that growing up with all of those siblings?
You know what? It was really cool. My dad made a point to make sure that we all knew each other. Excuse me. And that we were all close, because he's known so many families where they're spread out like that, especially when there's such a significant age gap that they don't know each other. It's just, they're brothers and sisters, but they don't function as such. So my dad made a point to make sure they knew, hey, this is your little brother. This is y'all. You're his sister, blah blah blah, whatever. And you guys want to treat him as such and get to know him, because he don't get to know you. And so they would take me. They all lived in Lawrenceville, Georgia at the time. So he would always take me up there as often as he could, usually in the summer, and just leave me there and let us all bond. And that's kind of how it was. The youngest of them is the only one that I actually ever lived with for a little bit. That's Bunny. She is what I think she's 12, 13 years older than me, and so we of course naturally we probably got a little bit more closer because we're kind of closer in age than some of the others. So yeah, that's kind of how that went. It was dope.
It is dope.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I try to live a judge-free life,
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has at times bothered me about specifically men who have multiple children, maybe by multiple different women, is the idea of how do you equally, nurture, love, and support and be there for all of the children when they're all in different places. So the fact that your dad found a way to do that, I think that's commendable. I was really impressed by that, listening to that episode.
Yeah, he was, he's done quite a few things in terms of being a father that I wonder how I'm going to be able to handle or do when I become a father, when I get you pregnant. So,
hey, stay professional.
No, but yeah, he's an awesome guy, and he's done some pretty magical things. So yeah.
So, just in like a nutshell, your childhood, did you spend most of your time with your dad or with your mom, or was it kind of equal?
All right, so it was. It's funny you bring it up. All right, so it was kind of. I think it was kind of split, right? So I don't remember. Well, I might have been about, I think 6 or 7 when they split, and I was living with my mom. And a lot of people are always like, well, hey, my parents are. I've heard people say, well, my parents split. I was devastated, and I didn't know what to do, and it affected them later in life. And when my dad and my mom split, I don't remember being affected by it. I don't even feel any effects of it now. I just wanted to know if I still get to see my dad. Mm-hmm. And when he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be over here, you can come over here, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I can just pick up the phone and call you, right? Yeah. But I'll tell you this though, when he left, I didn't know the things that were going on behind the scenes. I just knew I came home and some of his stuff were going. So I think that's the most devastation that I felt from it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like he just up and left. They'd had a prior discussion. Mm-hmm. And so my mom, I just kind of knew it was coming. Maybe she didn't know the day or whatever the case, but.
So they were going through problems with each other that you weren't aware of. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which I think is kind of a good thing.
Yeah,
because many times kids get exposed to the issues that's going on in the mother and the father's relationship.
Yeah,
so.
I saw arguments here and there, but it wasn't nothing outside of the normal relationship. I think whatever their major problem was, they did a good job of keeping that away from me. I never felt like that it was a broken home or anything like that. I just think the biggest shock for me was just coming home, he wasn't there, and not knowing how to reach him. And then I think a day later, I guess after he got settled or whatever case, he called me and told me where he was, and my mom brought me over there, and that was that. So anyway, to back to the question, it was, I think, let's see, up until I was 11. At 11, that's when I went to stay with my dad. It was the end of my 5th grade year. It was 96. The Olympics were coming to Atlanta, and that schools had closed early that year for the summer because of that. And from 11 till I graduated high school, I was with my dad, which kind of makes sense because excuse me, there was a certain piece of becoming a man coming into my own that only my dad could teach me. And his whole plan, he wanted me to be there too. It was just he had to wait till he got in my house or whatever the case may be. So
in the right position.
Yeah. So that's what it was. And I remember when I got to the house, he picked me up. My mom dropped me off at, I think it was my grandma's house or my aunt's house, and he picked me up from there. And then he brought me home, and there was like this big there's a sign on the door that said, I read it as "Welcome home, Corey." Yeah, because he didn't put a Y on the end. But it was saying "Welcome home, Corey." Yay! Yeah,
that is so nice.
Yeah,
Aww.
yeah. No, like I said, he's a cool guy. So yeah.
Once you were with your dad, how did you guys balance out you still being able to spend time with your mom? Because that's still an important relationship too.
Well, it was it was how I would go see my dad on the weekends. I would just go see my mom on the weekends. I never felt like I was lacking for anything. I still had that 2-parent household because my dad had remarried at the time, and at a time when me and my mom were kind of at odds at certain things. I hate calling her my stepmom, but for the sake of context, my stepmom. Mm-hmm. Like she and I have become really close. She kind of solidified my a religious epicenter in me. So, excuse me, everything that I know about religion, like her sister, my aunt, she was the pastor of my church, and like she was the most influential person I knew before she died.
I was about to say
before she died, and I mean that was that whole thing. Like it was awesome. She was really great, but it was I didn't see my mom every weekend, but whenever I wanted to go over there. It was a while before I went back over there though, because we were just kind of at odds. And so I remember going back there to our home, and I was nervous because I'd not been there before, and I didn't really know how to take it. And so,
what were you at odds about?
Well, we just kind of when she met my brother's dad, I didn't like the dude. Period. I felt like he came in trying to be.
And this is your younger brother. Mm-hmm.
My little brother Devin. When he came in, I felt like he came in trying to be my dad. When I already know who my dad is, so you take that shit somewhere else.
Right.
I can respect what he was trying to do. I think had he been given a little more context, he would have understood. He saw me as this undisciplined kid that needed structure.
Was that the case? Were you undisciplined?
No, I just didn't like his ass. That's what it was. I had chores that I did, but I didn't have I knew the chores I needed to do. I knew I needed to clean the bathroom on the weekends. I knew if I needed to go outside, I needed to clean my room, and whatever else my mom told me to do. He came up with this list of stuff that I needed to do every day, and I looked at this shit like, yo, and I looked at my mom like, yo, we doing this? Like, what's this?
Changing up.
Yeah, changing up. So it was like Monday, do the dishes, Tuesday, dust the table. I mean, they were all constructive stuff. Like, I mean, I can see now where I needed it. Because some of those things I wasn't doing, but it was the idea of, dude, who the fuck is you?
Right.
Come and do that shit. So we had been at odds about that. And he asked me one day, he was like, yo, you don't really like me too much, do you? It's like, no, not at all. And my mom kind of didn't know how to take that. So, I kind of got in some trouble about that. But we would kind of, I don't want to say I hate saying we would argue because that's weird from a child to a parent. But there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of anger going through that for about 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6. One day I just called her and told her I apologized to her, and that was kind of the beginning of getting us back on track.
That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I can see, from my personal experience, you and your mom have a great relationship. You and your mom have a great relationship from what I've been able to see.
Yeah.
So it's good. And you and your dad have a good relationship too.
There was a time when he and I kind of didn't like, and it's crazy to say, it was kind of, when was that piece? It was so far back, I can't even remember what happened. I think I had, when I was supposed to graduate and I didn't, there was a year I went back and stayed with my mom. We had gotten to a point where we could do that. it was still in that time where I realized it can't be around my mom for a long time without an argument, but it was a start to something. So I was supposed to graduate high school on time, did not. Played around, got lazy, and then I went back to my mom's house, and over there, so it was fine. And I just think, from what I remember, I think just the circumstances around it, like me and my dad weren't. It was that piece where I was coming into my own adulthood, and thinking I was, bigger and better or whatever the case. I talk about
like most teenagers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know too many teenagers who don't have that phase. It just kind of, it's what they call growing pains. It's just kind of one of those things.
Like, he felt like, oh, you just need this, that, or whatever. You need to go in and enlist in the army. I'm like, Dad, I'm not going to enlist in the army. What you going to tell me what you ain't going to do in my house, blah, blah, whatever. If you don't do this, you have to go back. So he dropped me back off at my mom's house, and that was that. I understood what he was trying to do. A lot, like they say, a lot of times growing up, you'll get it when you're older. Right. And I look back at it, and I can understand. We have a super great relationship. That was probably just egged on by me.
Right. Well, good. I'm glad to see that as an adult, you're able to have the relationship that you have with your parents. So you, of course, eventually graduated high school. Where did you attend college?
Oh, to Brown Mackie College of Atlanta. It is a business college. When I found that college, I was looking for a job. I'd moved to Los Angeles, spent about after high school. I moved to Los Angeles, spent about almost 4 years out there.
See, now that was going to be one of my questions. So now, before you tell me about college, so after you graduated high school, you went straight to Los Angeles?
I worked at this airport parking facility called the Parking Spot for about 2 months, maybe 3 months. My dad was working there too, so that was cool. And my cousin was moving to LA. His mom was out there. My aunt, she was out there. He was getting married. And he was like, hey, you should come out there too. And I was thinking, I was like, huh. I was 19 at the time. I was like, huh, I'm not doing anything else. There's probably never going to be another time in my life when I can get up and go like this, so why not?
Right.
So yeah, essentially I told my dad, told my stepmom, told my mom. My mom didn't want me to go. She's like, you gonna let him go out there to way out there to California? And my dad was like, the boy is grown. The boy, that's what he said. the boy can handle it. If he can't, he know how to come back home. Like, yo, so he really supported it. Bought my ticket to go out there, and so yeah.
So how long did you stay in Los Angeles?
About almost 4 years. Almost 4 years.
Was it like a huge pace from being in Atlanta your whole life?
It was a very faster pace. It helped me become very much aware of myself as an individual. And what I mean by that is, I'm in Atlanta. This is my home. This is my territory. Everything around me. And I know everybody that's here. They know me. I don't necessarily stand out in any one particular way other than just me being an individual. I get to LA, that's when I realize I have an accent.
So when you got there, did they realize that you was country as hell?
That was the first thing they pointed out. And not only that, but they could tell me what part of the country I was from. You from Atlanta, huh? Yeah. How did you find your way out here? Somewhere along the lines, people tell me I lost my accent, whatever the case. I don't know. If they say I did, then fine.
It comes out sometime, depending on your comfort level. Like, you have times where it come out and I'll be like, ooh. But for the most part, you're pretty, articulate, and you don't too much have that Atlanta,
So that was the thing. Like, so I can get like that around friends and family, but they was like, I kind of would get offended. That was like, you don't. After a while, when I would tell people I'm from Atlanta, and they would say, you don't sound like you from Atlanta. And it sounded really negative. And I was like, what does someone from Atlanta sound like? And then, like, they would try to imitate it, and then it would really sound bad. But I was like, Yo, like we don't all, have to, talk like that.
But you know what I think it is? No matter where you're from, if you haven't spent an ample amount of time in that region or that city, your biggest perception of that city is from what you see in the media or on TV.
Yes.
Because I know, when I go to other places and people tell me I'm from Chicago, the first thing they want to ask me about is the violence. Or depending on the person, the first thing they want to ask me about is downtown or the Sears Tower or, something like that. So it's not until people actually come here and spend enough time here to see that there's more to it than just what I've seen. Another place I felt like that about? Florida, just as the state. I've always just pictured Florida as beaches and surfing and stuff like that. But there's parts of Florida that's country as hell. And when you think about Florida, you don't really think about the South, but it's the South. So when I got to travel through, other parts of like Jacksonville, Gainesville, Wildwood, that's when I realized like this part of Florida is like a completely different universe to the Orlando and Miami and stuff like that. So it's probably just, people just have a perception of a certain place based off of what they've seen on TV.
Yeah, like they saw Atlanta as country. And I was like, I grew up near the city. I had one guy tell me, "What do you mean city?" I was like, "Yeah, we got buildings and shit." I was like, "What you thought we were all like pine trees and shit?" He was like, "Well, you don't really think about that."
I didn't even know that.
That we had buildings.
Yeah, because when I was a little girl, my aunt lived in Fort Valley.
That's not Atlanta,
right? It's not Atlanta. It's Georgia. It's like a farther part, way far from Atlanta, but. And then when we did travel, we went to other country-ass parts of Georgia. So I didn't even really understand that Atlanta was like a city, like an urban type thing until I became an adult. And I'm like, wow, all the years that I spent down there, I didn't know Atlanta had real, infrastructure and stuff.
There are still, the southern part of Georgia itself is still extremely rural. Yeah. Like Albany. There's still, you can ride by old, they're not active, but old cotton plantations. I personally like going down to Albany, Georgia. I used to go down there every summer. There's my mom's half of the family is. Excuse me. And I love going down there because it was such a change of pace. It was, a little slower paced, that sort of thing. But back to being in LA, how it kind of made me aware of myself. Like when they kind of would explain to me and kind of mimic what they thought Atlanta people sound like, I kind of was like, wow, that maybe I do. Like, the typical being lazy as it gets to the end of the word type thing. And so I tried to make a conscious effort because the way they described it didn't sound intelligent. And I'm not saying that people in Atlanta aren't intelligent because, I'm from Atlanta and I'm intelligent. But there was a time and place for everything. And I wanted to conduct myself better than that. Better than the perception of what it was. So you
didn't go to college in Los Angeles. You went to college in Atlanta.
Almost did. Was going to go to Santa Monica College and then probably transition to USC, probably. And Santa Monica College has a beautiful campus. But no, I just wasn't ready to go yet. I took some time off from school. I just felt like I needed it and deserved it. So all I did was really just worked in LA. I was moved out there, lived with my cousin for a year, got a car, got an well, it wasn't really an apartment. It was kind of like a duplex home that was hooked to another side of someone else's home.
Right.
And did that for the remainder of the time. Would travel back and forth to Palmdale with my cousins. People would always ask me, like, yo, did you see, like, you in LA? Like, yeah. Did you see, what celebrities did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see Snoop? Like, yo, Snoop probably up in Diamond Bar somewhere. Like, no, I didn't want to cross him or whatever that was. But it was crazy. Like, it was fun. I had a lot of fun in LA. Had a lot of fun. I learned that Long Beach and Hollywood, let me get this right, because LA people kick my ass. This is a public service announcement. everything that you consider that you think is LA looking in is not Los Angeles. Long Beach is not Los Angeles. Long Beach is Long Beach.
Right.
Hollywood is not Los Angeles.
Right.
Hollywood is Hollywood. Los Angeles is Los Angeles.
That's one of the things that I've kind of been jealous about when other states have like multiple major cities or communities, is that you can see the difference in those people from those different, like, you know, I know people from the Bay who are completely different from like people in a valley. And I kind of get jealous about that because
they have their own little subculture.
Yeah, because I kind of get jealous about that because, I mean, like Chicago, I mean, we have North Side, East Side, West Side, where, I mean, we have some differences, but for the most part, a Chicago motherfucker is a Chicago motherfucker. That's pretty much it. So I've always kind of like admired how other larger states have multiple cities and those people from those cities are so different from each other and they just have like different cultures. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
so you got to witness that.
Yeah, like, because I was corrected. I was on the phone with somebody and I was in Long Beach. It's probably Josh. And he was like, yo, Josh is my best friend. He was like, yo, what part of LA are you in right now? Oh, man, I'm in Long Beach. And the person heard it. They was like, no. The correct answer would have been Inglewood or some shit like that. You're in Long Beach. That's not LA. They're really strict about those.
So
boundaries.
Inglewood is considered LA?
Inglewood is, yeah, it's part of South LA, I think.
So is that considered the like hood part of LA?
South LA, yeah, is kind of a little more grittier than North LA. West and South LA is kind of.
So
gritty.
where is Compton in relation to that?
Let me see if I can get this right.
Because that's not LA technically, is it? You see, I don't know. I never.
No. I'm trying to remember how they described it. Was Compton LA? I think Compton was still considered quote unquote LA. I think yeah. I think it was in that area.
So it's kind of like you have Los Angeles, which is a major cities. Then of course you have like suburbs or outskirts of that said city. Is that basically how it is?
Yeah, I think, and here's why. Here was the easiest way for me to remember it, and I think it had a lot to do with this. A lot of cities, like where I come from, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of counties.
Right.
In LA, there's like 4 or 5 counties. There's Los Angeles County. There's Orange County. I can't remember the other counties. Compton, I believe, Inglewood, all those places that you typically think when you think about West Coast rap stuff,
right.
All that stuff, that's in Los Angeles County.
Okay.
Anaheim is not. I want to say Anaheim is Orange County. Can't remember. I gotta look at the map. Forgive me if I got it wrong. Somebody will correct me in the tweets. But all of the, so because it's like 4 or 5 huge counties, all those other cities fit in that. So I think that's what they mean by LA or Los Angeles, whatever the case. Which really threw me off. I was like, yo, like this. I looked at the map, a county map. I was like, yo, this is like this whole little patch of like country is Los Angeles County, which I thought was a really lazy name for their counties, but you know, whatever. Yeah.
Excellent. So what made you move back to Atlanta?
All right. So two things. I really felt like that I would never move back if I never felt like I didn't accomplish everything I set out to accomplish. The idea was that I could move out there and I wanted to know that I could make it on my own, get my own place, have a job, get my own car, and all that stuff. I felt like I'd accomplished that. As it related to that, everything that I was accomplishing, everything I said to accomplish had already been accomplished. At this point, I was just coasting. And so, me and my ex were thinking about getting back together. So that kind of was the deciding
The ex that you had before you moved to LA?
Yeah, like we were broke. Yeah, that one. We were broken up when I moved to LA, but we were still close. Like she was a really close friend of mine. So we kind of talked about trying it again, and I mean, I at that point that was the next goal to accomplish to see. So that's kind of what that was the. I was wavering every time I go back home. I'd miss it a little bit more.
You were getting homesick.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. because I couldn't really spend as much time with people as I wanted, when I was there. Couldn't really see all the people that I hadn't seen in a while when I was there. So every time I fly back, I get a little more homesick. I think maybe she kind of picked up on that. And she just kind of just matter-of-factly introduced the idea.
Plotted.
Probably.
Because leave it up to you guys. That's what women do. We plot.
Well, perhaps. That's a skillful trait y'all do have. But she was like, yeah, why don't you just come back home? I was like, I want to come back home. I'm having too much fun. What you mean I just come back home? She's like, yeah, you just kind of picked up a laugh and just come back home. So I kind of started toying around with the idea. She and I, was getting closer, and at that point, that time we had broken up. I mean, there wasn't any maliciousness. It was just, I couldn't really deal with her selfishness. And, we just, thought it was a regular breakup. It wasn't really any controversy at that time. So it was, maybe she's grown, she's matured, whatever. Let's try it out and see. I've grown, I've matured. Let's see. So, what happened? I think I was going to my aunt and uncle's house, and my car broke down. And then I just kind of thought about it, like, well, yeah, maybe this is a sign that I should probably go. They didn't want me to go back. I was really active in the church again, so they didn't want me to leave, and it was
in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They
didn't want me to leave and come back home, and because earlier when I was talking about my aunt, she was my pastor. Mm-hmm. Her, I was under the leadership of her daughter in her daughter's church in L.A. Okay. Church has always been a family structure for me, and I haven't been so much to church lately because that family orient. I feel like an outsider. That family oriented structure is not there. So I tend to worship a little bit more on my own. I'll do my own reading and research and things like that. I understand that I should worship in the house of the Lord, and occasionally I do go to church. I don't have a church home because that's a whole nother conversation. But and that's the first time I've said that. That structure, that family structure, is not there, and it's foreign to me, and I kind of just don't want to. If I go back to church, I'd have to be there with some family. And there are some that are the case, but I just haven't. Anyway, back to what I was saying. They didn't want me to leave. My uncle was like, yo, is this about your car breaking down? And I was like, no, it's not that. I just think that, it's time for me to, go back. So I moved out of my place, and I was living in Palmdale with my aunt and my uncle for a few days. I would commute back and forth, which is an hour outside of LA, so I commute back and forth to work. But I already going to move my stuff out. My cousin's helping me. And I'm like, you sure you want to do this? Because we can do this, that, whatever. I was like, no, but I'll come back and visit.
So you really had your mindset that you wanted to go back to Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm the type of person, once my mind is set to do something, there's very little a person can do to change that. So
I'm aware.
That's a good trait, though.
No, it is.
Oh, okay.
Because indecisiveness becomes annoying.
Yeah.
In people. Yeah. But yeah, so you moved back to Atlanta. And what was next? What was the next major move that you made once you moved back?
Going to college.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew that I was going to go back to college, go to college when I got home. Just didn't know when. I was looking for a job. Found a couple of rinky-dink ass jobs.
We've all been through this.
Yeah. And so I was looking for. I said the easiest way to get back in the work game is to do something similar to what I was doing in LA. I was a security dispatcher for ADT, so I would dispatch security and patrol units to homes. So I was like, well, I know this field pretty well, so why don't I find some more security dispatching jobs? Found one, but I was at a job fair. And I'll never forget it. The lady was like, hey, come over here and talk. So I was like, man, I'm not over here looking for going for a school to go to. I can do that later. She was like, I talked to her. She was really cool and personable. She said, come check us out. She laid out how it would work for me. It was essentially, I was getting full-time credit for going to school part-time. essentially where it was set up. And it was only one class a month. It was kind of like a night school format, but in the day, which worked out for me because I can go to school in the morning and I worked at night. And I only had to focus on one class. So the way it was set up, I was still getting my full credits because of the amount of hours I was spending on that one class. They just took that and focused it on 1 month, which is cool. I like Brown Mackie College's setup. So I lost my train of thought. Where was I going? What did I say?
She told you to come check them out.
Yeah, she told me to come check them out. She was like, all right, so just come check this out. If you don't like it, no problem. You know, that's fine. But just come look at it and see. I was like, okay, cool. What did she say? If you don't, come check us out. If you don't like it, no problem. No harm, no foul. If you do, just spend some time. We'll talk about it. She asked me, she said, how much do you think, going to this college will cost you? She told me the number. I told her, I said, she was like, and it was much, much less than that. So like, okay, I came and checked them out. Went to the school, liked it, walked around, liked it. Then she sat down with me and I was like, okay. Because I didn't think I was going to qualify for financial aid.
Okay.
I said, if you can make financial aid happen for me, then I will go. I'll come. And she was like, okay. She was like, give me till 8:00 tonight. If you don't hear anything from me, then don't even worry about showing up. She was like, but if you do hear something from me, we'll have a deal that you will come in and sign the papers on whatever day it was, and we will do you'll get you enrolled. I was like, deal. Looking at the clock, 7:50, I'm like, man, I'm good to go. 7:55, man, I'm good to go. 7:59, got a call.
Wow.
Yep. So I was like, okay, gotta do it. And she had got me approved and all that stuff, and I started school the next couple of weeks.
So what did you major in?
Business management, which is cool because there were certain accounting pieces of it. My degree is in business management. There are certain accounting pieces I didn't think I liked the accounting pieces because, well, it's accounting.
Right.
I found an appreciation for ledgers. Mm-hmm. We had to learn to do, which really helped me out with payroll in the field that I'm in now. So we had to learn to do handwritten ledgers on sheets of paper that were about 6 and 7 feet long, kind of. And
accounts receivable.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I'm familiar.
It can take one fuck up.
Yes.
That would throw off your whole
ledger.
Sheet.
Yes.
It happened twice, and I was like, can I please do this on my own? Because none of these fuck ups are mine. And I got tired of having to try to go back in. I mean, the whole design was to learn to work together. So I'm an introvert, so of course I always wanted to work by myself, but it helped me because it forced me to work with other people.
Right.
But they kind of got told about themselves about fucking up. So, yeah.
One of the things that I enjoy most about business management was economics. I mean, I think that if anybody can have the opportunity to just even read an economics textbook or just anything, economics teaches you a lot about finances, how business works, how our economy works, things about inflation and things like that. I mean, my field of work now isn't really anything to do with business admin, but it's just certain things that when you go to school, you just never forget it. Mm-hmm. And it just always makes you sharp in certain areas. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, what degree did you graduate with?
I graduated with the degree of business management. It was great. I graduated.
I mean, did you master's?
No. I didn't go to school that long. Maybe I'll go back and get my master's. That school had an associate's program.
Okay.
And they were trying to get the bachelor's program. And I thought they were going to get that before I left, and it never happened, which was disappointing. That was the only disappointment that I had behind that, is because I was told in the beginning they were applying for the bachelor's program, and that we could just transition into that. So that kind of hurt a little bit, because I would like to have my bachelor's in business management, and I probably still will.
So now you're in a line of work. You tell them. What do you do? What line of work are you in now?
All right, so I kind of play this close to the vest, but because I ask other people their personal business, I will.
Now you don't. Now you don't have to say what company.
No. I give them a general overview, but I am a corporate trainer, so I travel a lot. I have 3 offices. There's an office that I have in Atlanta that I train at. I've managed that. I have an office in Arizona, and then I have an office at our headquarters in California, which is in Mountain View near San Francisco. I train on the ins and outs of the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. I train people how to consult, how to read, how to sell health insurance, and how to consult and advise on the Affordable Care Act as it relates to their health insurance, as well as just different systems that are that go along with that.
So how did you get in that line of work?
All right, so I was a sales manager for a solutions provider for AT&T, making very decent money. And things happened at the job, and they were going in a different direction. That's a long story short. And I was looking for work. And my neighbor, she was like, well, I know that my job is hiring, and I know that you can do the work. You're not going to be making what you were making before, which was tough for me. Mm-hmm. I had applied for a job at Bank of America corporate, and I had the job, and I think there was something in my credit history that kept me from getting that job. Mm.
Which nowadays is becoming very common.
Yeah. They'll hire me now, I think. But so I was like, well, one, it's money. It's money. So why not? You know, I'm making more than what I'm making right now,
which was nothing
at the time. Yeah. So I went in and I applied for it. Did the interview, knocked it out, got the job. Started at the lowest tier of that company, which was kind of it was a humbling experience. But even in the humility, when I looked around me, I saw nothing but opportunity. One of the things that stood out about that job is you always hear people being disgruntled and upset about their work and, complaining about the job. People had their own general gripes, but I didn't really see anybody complaining about the job itself.
That's when I go, if I've ever interviewed for a job or what have you, one of the things that I look for if I have the opportunity to see people who are working is atmosphere and just overall disposition of the people. If I walk by and people are just smiling at me and saying hello, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better about if this is a place that I, think I would want to work with. Everybody seems to be, just focused on their work, which isn't a bad thing. But if no one seems to just be like, laid back and kind of makes me feel a little, So the fact that you picked up on that, I think that's something I always look for when I'm looking at a new job.
So I'm always looking for the next opportunity. And there was an opportunity there that no one around me was seizing. And I was like, well, so here's what's going to happen. I already mapped it out in my head. I said, I'm going to climb up this ladder. These people around me that I started with are going to have an issue with that, which they did. But at my job, before the sales manager job, when I first got a manager's position, his name was Corey Lewis, never forget. He prepared me for that. And I'm glad the way he did it. He pulled me and a couple people from our peers and told us once we interviewed for it, he decided he was going to hire us. He told us, the only way that you're going to get this position is if you don't say anything to anyone else about it. He deliberately pulled me in front of and would come back and get me for different little meetings and things, knowing that I would come back to people asking questions about what it was for. And I couldn't say anything to him. And the more I didn't say, or the less I said to him, the more they started getting upset. The more, we know that you got the position. Why don't you just say it? oh, we know that this, that, and whatever. You just won't want to say this or whatever, and you doing this and all that. And I saw a change in people. Like over the course of days, like we went from being buddy and cool and whatever to you keeping stuff from us to we know you got this and whatever it just said. So it was like a real eye opener for me. And when he finally made it official and announced it, of course they had their speculation, but I couldn't say anything. But it was totally different. I'm now managing these people, and so that's a totally different dynamic.
Managing your peers.
Yes. I had to and he did that so that I could learn how to handle that, to see how we would handle it. So I was equipped for that because of what he did. Now you still have your own things, but the one thing I learned from that is they respect you as your peer. They now have to learn to respect you as a manager, and there's a certain way that you have to finesse that. You have to charm that a little bit, and that happened. They want to try you because you're cool and whatnot, and you kind of just have to. You have to just kind of like what I would do is I would pull them to the side and say, hey, what's this about? I'm talking about, and anytime somebody act like they got a problem with you, and you pull them to the side and say what's really good, they get brand new, and all of a sudden there's no problem.
Right.
I learned that with older people that are older than you, they just want to be given the respect of you acknowledging that what they have done in the past. If he was an Army veteran, acknowledge that. If he used to work for Wall Street, acknowledge that. They just want to know that you know who they were and what and then they be putting your head. The issue is just with younger people that feel like because you came from them that you ain't shit. Mm-hmm. When they see that first suspension happen, then it didn't really get to that. I had to learn in managing those groups that I couldn't come in with an iron fist because, hey, I was just one of them. And a mentor pulled me to the side and was like, hey, you can't do that because you were just there. Like, you can't just turn, so.
I think that's a life lesson. I mean, it's something that you can take into the business, but you can't enforce discipline without reinforcing love. And I think that works well in business because if you were just their peers yesterday, you can't just flip the switch and now just become their disciplinarian today. You still have to reinforce that there's still love and mutual interest there before doing that.
She told me, she said, be yourself a little bit more. Like the reason why they grew fond of you to begin with, be yourself. She said, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And so I would set time aside for them and get to know them from that level and understand what they were going through, and I built that trust, and I had their respect. Excuse me, but I got a little too far ahead. So I started out at the lowest rung of that company, and then I started managing that department, which is kind of how we got there. When that department dissolved, I moved. I become managing that department. Then I became one of the heads of that department. And then I moved over, when that dissolved, I moved over into the training aspect of it. The whole point of it is that I saw an opportunity, I seized it, and I took it. And now I'm making much, much more money than I was at my previous job, which I thought was for my age at that time was really good money. So he's just seeing an opportunity and taking the time and doing what it takes to make it happen. A guy told me one time, he said, whatever you were doing 3 months ago is the reason why you're where you're at right now. If you're not, if you're sitting there not doing the same things you've always done, what have you been doing for the past 3 months? Probably doing the same thing. Right. If you're somewhere more than where you were 3 months, if you're somewhere more, if you're at a better position than what you were 3 months ago, what were you doing 3 months ago? Probably preparing for that position. Probably preparing to do something more. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep that ideal.
That makes a lot of sense. So it was work that you were familiar with, but the industry was completely different.
The industry was different. I was pretty much bred, through college and just watching my pops and my other couple jobs to manage folk. I've always been great with people, but so managing aspect and payroll and all that stuff, that was easy. It was learning a whole new industry, a whole new thing. So yeah, that was new.
So you're in the health industry, safe to say.
Yeah,
In the health industry.
Yeah.
So what has been, I guess what I'm trying to ask is if for whatever reason life changed and you were to leave this job or go somewhere else, what have you been able to take from what you're doing in your work now that you feel that you can take with you for life, regardless if it's the same career or just in your own personal life? What have you been able to take from this job that you feel will be really valuable to your life now?
I am now licensed in all 50 states to, if I wanted to sell health insurance and life insurance, I could. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to consult, just be a consultant on health insurance and life insurance, I could. I built relationships with higher ups at a lot of health insurance carriers. Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina is one. Humana, which has just got purchased by someone else. I work closely with them. Next week, I'm going to a conference for a Care First Blue Cross in Maryland. I've met a lot of those higher ups in those relationships. The CEO of my company is also one of the board members of LifeLock. So there's that networking connection. I've gained certain training. I am now a Langevin certified master trainer that I can take with me, whatever. So I've gotten a bunch of different certifications to go along with what some people would consider a light degree because it's just an associate's. I have a plethora of certifications and licenses that go along with those things. A lot of people look at, you only got this and, it's that, whatever, and, you don't make that much. I do pretty good for myself. It's what you do with the opportunities that you have. And that's not to say that having a higher degree isn't about anything, because it certainly is.
Absolutely.
But just the relationships that I've built across companies, like I was a department manager for Toys R Us. I still have some connection there with some of the people I met there. But just specifically, just the things that I know about health insurance, the Affordable Care Act, governments, and things like that. I can take that anywhere.
Good. That's good. When we did, the episode, my interview, my segment, mm-hmm. that was one of the things that I mentioned, that how I was let go from my previous job made me realize that whenever I had the opportunity to get into a company, my goal is to take upon opportunities, to leave there with things under my belt that I can use to be an asset in other places. So I think that that's really good that you've been able to do that. And how long have you been working at this company?
2 years, and I was on our intranet the other day because I'm trying to take over that project, and I saw how long I was there. 2 years and so many months. And
you've accomplished that in 2 years, and it takes some people 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to do that.
I was running that department within 6 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
You so smart.
Hey, boo.
So, now that we've kind of gotten familiar with you.
Oh.
So, I don't know if I want to use the word rumor.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if the word rumor is appropriate.
It's whatever it is, it's probably untrue.
Maybe reputation is the word. So before you and I dated, so I just want to let y'all know. Right. Every time I bring this up, he gets so bashful and he starts blushing. So it's so
is that
cute.
what I'm doing now?
Yes, you're blushing.
Get out of here.
So before you and I were even I can't
believe you're gonna do this.
Before the thought of us was even conceived, mm-hmm. you had somewhat of a reputation of being a ladies' man. Now let me clarify this, because I can remember when you and I followed each other on Twitter, but it's been for a few years at least, right?
Yeah, it has been.
So when I first started following you, I was introduced to, the IC. We won't go too much into that because it's like a secret society.
Shout out to the IC, okay?
So
this podcast is IC production.
Some of your fellow IC friends, would kind of tease and joke about you being a ladies' man.
Is ladies' man like? Are you being politically correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
or what do y'all call it? The man, or the legend, or whatever other term you want to put in place of that. You kind of had that reputation.
Okay, all right.
I recall, some young ladies would travel to Atlanta, and you were like the ambassador at ATL. Any woman want to come through here got to see me.
That's not.
Then it made it to. We're gonna get to this later, but this is just a transition. Then it made it to the timeline that you had like a whole woman kit in your house with flat irons and blow dryers, and so we're gonna get to that later. Okay. So, is there anything that you want to clear up about your past reputation of you being a ladies' man? What was that about? Or do you have an idea of why people might have felt that way about you?
As far as things I want to clear up. This is going on the record. All of that stuff.
Don't say it's untrue.
The 2-3% of that might be true was all in preparation so that I could be with you.
Okay, that was cute. Now, get to the real shit.
I mean, all right. So as far as people coming to Atlanta, right? There's this. I hate this perception. I hate when people come to Atlanta and they only want to go to places that they saw in rap videos, they heard in T.I. songs, and then leave and say that there's nothing going on in Atlanta. And I'm like, yo, I need to. Nobody else is asserting themselves to show people around. I was like, what? People need to see my Atlanta.
Right.
So you haven't seen Atlanta unless I've shown you Atlanta. Mm. So what I would do is I would make myself available for those that if I knew they would come to Atlanta, and I enjoy meeting new people, I would offer my services in terms of helping them, showing them Atlanta.
Oh, your services.
I've met some cool people along the way. Some things have flourished into other things, but the idea was so they could see places other than strip clubs and T.I. references.
I mean, ain't nothing wrong with strip clubs.
I mean, we got the best strip clubs in the country.
Chicken wings up in there.
It is definitely some good chicken wings.
I don't know why people be so turn their nose up at strip club chicken wings. But it ain't like they making the chicken wings with their ass.
Right.
But it's chicken wings.
But the thing was, is just I wanted people to understand it was much more than that.
Okay.
Like if people come to Chicago, you want them to see much more than just the South Side.
Right. Exactly. But you're still deflecting the whole ladies' man thing, though.
I will stand by this to the death. I have
a good rapport with women.
I have a good rapport with the opposite sex, and I feel like I have been challenged and persecuted for that. At a time where women were just being degraded, downgraded, called God. All kind of bitches and hoes. I was loving them and trying to understand them.
You were loving them?
And trying to understand them.
Loving them?
And trying to understand them.
And understanding their, anatomy.
I was loving on them and trying to understand them. Okay? So I felt like that was needed and it was appreciated. And it was not an act, it was genuine.
I saw some stories on the timeline where...
shit.
You were the girlfriend slayer. You would slay a nigga's girl with no problem.
All right, so look, damn it, that was early to mid 20s. All right, I took the stance of I can't respect your relationship more than you respect your relationship. As I've grown older, I know
that's a choice, though.
That is a choice. As I've grown older, I've learned that that's probably about 32% bullshit. Mm-hmm. So, and to make amends for it. Right? So and I never target them.
They just came after you.
You
just attracted women that were in relationships.
They would make it known that they were ready to seek entertainment otherwise. Kind of. So, what I would do to make amends for this, after, we would, entertain, quote unquote, doing the...
You're being so politically correct.
After we would have sex, during the pillow talk thing, I'd start counseling them on their relationship to try to help them go back and have a stronger relationship, because they just need someone to talk to. And I was a good person to talk to about it. Am I not?
Yeah.
That's how we started. I was talking to you about Kim.
True. Yeah. I was, telling you.
I've always given good advice. So afterwards, they would sit there, he just ain't shit and all this. And I was like, well, part of the reason why y'all not really, working out is because how you just rode
my
me.
Dick. Right.
Yeah. Maybe you want to do less of that, I was like, think about it. And so they lay there on my head on my chest. Yeah, you're right. I was like, yeah, he probably. And then I would give them insight on the male psyche and how men think and all of that. And trying to put them on like, because I was like, you can't. You're going at it thinking how a woman thinks in that situation. It doesn't work, and you're upset. Yeah. Go back and try that.
So was it that they wanted to get back at him? Had he cheated on them? And they were just like, oh, I'm going to cheat too. I'm going to have my own thing. Is that what it was?
I don't know. I ain't care about all that, man.
You just
I didn't really. Well, I'd say the most of it was probably them. I think they were already just checking out, and I was the one there that was giving them the attention that they weren't getting, treating them as the woman that they weren't being treated as home, and all of that was just simply being nice and answering questions. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so they didn't have that conversation. They weren't able to have conversation. And so I was able to give them conversation, and, they just kind of, fell over, that way. So anyway, this happened more than once. I tell them, hey, maybe you want to try riding me less and riding him more. and then, well, yeah, you're right. And, so then we'd have sex again. And I was like, man, she ain't even hear nothing I just said to her. But I would do my part to help strengthen their relationship. And a lot of them did go back, and a lot of them did go on to have successful relationships. And I'm confident in saying that I had a lot to do with that. Sometimes...
So what you're saying is your dick got superpowers.
What I'm saying is this. What I said then is this. Sometimes your woman had to miss you and come over here to me for a little bit for her to go to strengthen your relationship. You just had to let that happen. This is what I would say then. She had to come over, spend some time over here for a little bit, get revitalized.
Interesting.
That's what I said then. Now again, I recognize now that's bullshit. Again, that was a long time ago, early to mid 20s. That's not me anymore. Has not been me for quite some time. I never targeted women in relationships, but they be fucking.
Oh, interesting. So in that, on a serious note, in those situations, did it ever change how you viewed women? Because a lot of men would be in that situation, be a part of it, but then on the same token, these bitches ain't shit, these hoes ain't shit, I be fucking it never changed your perception of women? No,
because I never bought into the double standard. Shit happens. One thing I've learned from sleeping with all these men's queens.
You are.
Listen, there's a thing to learn in everything. Right? One thing that I learned is that, excuse me, people will check out for various reasons. Some of them petty, some of them are very serious.
True.
But among all of those things, sometimes shit just happens. And that's just the only way you can define it. People are always like, well, it's got to be this and that it is, or this got to happen because of that. Sometimes a tree just falls in the street. It didn't have to be a tornado that came through. People will stand there for hours and days and go home and try to figure out, why did this tree just suddenly fall in the street? Sometimes shit just happens. Yeah. And so, like, I never saw them as different or anything like that, because we've all been there, be it cheating on some. Well, I'm not saying we all cheated. I've never cheated. But whether it be someone cheating on their spouse, or whether it be some other unfortunate mishap that they've been a part of, it just happens. And, that's not to say that it's, I'm welcoming it or I'm accepting it or whatever the case. It is what it is. And sometimes people need that redirect.
So, have you ever been cheated on?
I have been cheated on twice. Yeah, that didn't feel too good.
Same woman or different women?
Two different women. Well, I mean, one was like, middle school or early high school, some shit like that. Oh. It hurt nonetheless.
I know.
I'm glad that it happened then, because it heightened my antennas. But yeah, I mean, it hurts. It hurts.
How did you cope? How did you get past it and allow yourself to love me?
It took some time. You have to take time. You have to understand your own healing process. For me, I gave so much to that relationship. I was completely emotionally drained after that relationship. I had nothing to give to anyone. It was a while before I even wanted some kind of a companionship, period. And that was just being female company and going to places, because, that's cool. I realized that was a part of my life I needed. It took me a while. I had to take time. I almost had to become a recluse, had to become reclusive. I just needed to take time away from that. And I had to get out of that situation for that to happen. Like, we were still living together and broken up. But, which is a whole nother funny story, but I needed to take that time for myself and not rush it. Not rush that time to heal. So good. That was kind of how I did that.
I think one of the things that attracted us to each other is we have very similar ways in how we view life in general.
Oh, we fly as fuck.
Now, I will admittedly say that I am the cynic in this relationship. You are more of an optimist, But I'm not. And I also want to clear up something. Pessimism and cynicism is not the same thing. I mean, they can kind of cross hairs.
Similarities, yeah.
They can cross hairs, but they're not necessarily the same thing, because I can see the good in something. I can be encouraging and enlightening, but I think that my cynicism is more so just about being just realistic in how shit goes. A lot of people like to live or view shit in a way that's ideal, and what's ideal is not always what actually happens. Mm-hmm. So, but getting back, I think that's might be one of the things that kind of drawn us to each other, because at first you thought I was mean.
Yeah.
You thought I was mean.
I thought you were really mean.
and
I was like, man, why is this chick so mean, man? Like, yo, what's her problem?
I don't really have an argument for that, because maybe I was. I know I was going through some shit.
That's why I followed you, because I needed to understand why the hell you were so mean. I wanted to know what you were so mad at the world about. What I thought you were just like mad at the world.
And I can't go back and say, oh, was it? I don't know. Maybe I was.
It taught me something though. It taught me that, like, it's not that you were just mean. You were straight to the point, unapologetic about your point, and didn't really do a whole lot of follow-ups. Right. Like, you go in and if you need to fire a shot, or if you need to pierce something, it was just pierce surgically, I'm done. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of how I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was probably some mean things I saw, but I mean, generally, you weren't a mean person. I thought, and as an overall, I actually found you to be quite sweet.
Oh,
yeah,
even sweeter now.
Yeah, baby.
But so, what would you say? What would you say is the reason, or has been the reason for your overall disposition as a person? Because unbiasedly, not just saying this because you're my boyfriend. Of course, this has a reason to do with why you're my boyfriend.
Yeah.
But before we even got to the point of, being interested in each other, what I saw was just a really genuinely nice person. Like, really, like, you're really nice to people. You're helpful. I had never in my life seen you disrespect women, disrespect anybody, even men. I mean, you have your way of getting people off your back or, sticking up for what's right. But you really just generally are a really good person. And
Thank you.
You're nice and just cordial. What would you equate that to? Has it been something that was instilled in you, or do you really just think that that's just how you are? Is it anything that you've been through personally that's made you that way?
Growing up, I was an angry kid. I was fighting every chance I got.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
I didn't take shit. If I felt like you said something that I didn't like, I'll punch you in the face.
I mean, it's not funny. It's just a stark contrast to who you are now.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, like, and when I say like early childhood, that was like really that period up until 5th grade, toward the end of 5th grade, before I moved with my dad. And it was like neighborhood fights. There were a couple people whose ass I whooped in school, if it got to that point, but still. So I would, I was very short tempered and really quick to throw hands. A lot of that, I mean, I was really chubby as a kid, and I embraced my chubbiness. I'd play with my stomach, or, make the stomach roll or whatever. Okay, so I mean, people found joy in that, and I knew I was able to bring joy to that. But being that, I also had to be sharp because people had jokes.
Right.
And what my brothers and sisters would do is we would fire off jokes at each other, to get you, ready for that. And so, a couple of folks, it was, they would fire off jokes, and I'll fire off jokes, and then they fire something back, and then something about my mama, because I've now cute you in a joke game, so now you got to go reach out for something for my mom. All right, this ain't the rules to engage. I got to whoop your ass now. You know what I mean? My mom was like, "Did they know me? Did they?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Well, why you out there?" I was like, "Well, Mama, they said something about you, and I can't let anybody say it about you.
Right.
I don't understand why you don't understand this. I just protected your honor." So I would whoop ass. I went to stay with my dad, and I got in a fight over there. This dude, he really didn't deserve this ass whooping. We actually ended up being really cool after that. I can't remember what it was, but it was probably a game. Maybe he didn't want to give the controller or some shit like that. He was in my house. No, we weren't. He wasn't in my house. We were in the neighbor's house, and maybe other folks was egging it on, but I mean, I whooped his ass, and I kind of felt bad a little bit about that ass whooping. A little bit. The dude who I actually got in a fight with him. That was kind of serious because we were playing Monopoly. He landed on Boardwalk. I had my hotel. He didn't want to give up them 2 G's. I told him he got to get out. He's like, "I ain't going nowhere." "Shit, you going somewhere today?" So I whooped off in his ass. But what happened was I realized I didn't have to fight. My dad there were times when my dad had to break out the belt. I can count on one hand the number of times my dad had to break out the belt. But rather than resort to that, the first thing he'd do is he'd sit down and talk to me, and he'd give me an understanding of what this was, and I'd give my side, and we'd talk about it, and we'd talk about better ways to handle it, and it was cool. Sometimes those lectures got to be a couple hours long, and I was like, "Man, just break out the belt."
Right.
And he was like, "No, I'm not going to do that because I can whoop you," and then that's over. This I'm putting something on your mind. What I got from living over there, and it didn't take long for it to happen, was there was an inner peace that I had that I got at the age of like 11 or 12. And I felt like, you know what, I have this peaceful calm within myself that wasn't there before. Mm-hmm. It was all tumultuous inside because I was angry. And then I started not whooping people's ass, but looking for ways to talk, not really talk myself out of it, because if it got into that point, we'd fight. But I became very fearful of who I was in the fight because I had a tendency to black out, and that could be scary for them. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I genuinely didn't want to physically harm people. I just wanted them. I didn't know how to express my anger, and that was the only thing I guess I had been shown. And so I had this inner peace within myself, and I stopped doing it. I started thinking things through a little bit more. I started talking through it a little bit more, trying to gain an understanding of why we reached this point, and to give them an opportunity to rethink what they were going to do. Because I knew what I was ready to do, But so that's what that was, and that's carried on through me. Like it's cool to be peaceful, and people will sometimes try to take advantage of that, and you have to let them know I'm not the one to take advantage of that with.
Right.
So that's where that's come from.
Hmm. So when's the last time you whooped somebody's ass?
That would have been the last time I got in a fight. That might have been 2002 or 2003. It was in the neighborhood. Me and the guy, we got, we were cool before. We got mildly cool after that. He was just talking like just this mad shit. And I heard it. And so I went and spoke to him about it. About you?
Yeah. About you?
Yeah.
What was he saying?
I think it was a matter of he wanted the attention that I was getting from women. Excuse me, because I know females is a hot word. I can't give you women.
So you were a ladies' man.
I had a great rapport with women. And I have 5 sisters, which helped attribute to that. I've always respected women. So I think he wanted the attention that I was getting, and I heard about it. So I went and spoke to him because it kind of caught me out the blue. Like, yo, like, what's really good? And dude, it was in front of people. He was like, you a bitch.
Whoa.
It's like, come on, man. Why you want to do this right now? Like, come on. Like, don't call me a bitch. You a bitch. Again. Like, all right, bro. Next time you call me a bitch, man, I got to put you on your ass. That's what I told him. Like, I was calm about it. I was like, next time you call me a bitch, I got to put you on your ass. You a bitch. I had to put him on his ass. I punched him like 3 times in the face. The third one knocked him on his ass. Right? I don't know if you can kind of see this on my fist right here. Mm-hmm. Do you see like this faint little? That was where his tooth was. Mm-hmm. I couldn't move this half of I didn't realize how much you can't do with your hand when your pinky is like messed up. Yeah. So my pinky knuckle was like up here.
All fingers matter.
Yeah. That's right. All fingers matter. So his tooth got knocked out. It was kind of lodged in there. I kind of flicked it off, but it was he was out for the count. Needless to say, I wasn't no more bitches after that. It kind of put me in odds with his family a little bit. My dad, surprisingly, initially did not take my side.
Really?
Yeah. He thought I was picking on the dude. Until he saw, the way my dad thought of it was, because I've always been the biggest dude in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That's another reason why I have to be peaceful. Because I recognize my stature and how it puts people on the defense. Right. So I try to bring that down a little bit. So when he saw dude and realized he had some size on him, my dad was like, oh, I thought he was a little old something. You beat his ass? Yeah. All right. And that was the end of that conversation.
We had a proud moment.
Yeah, a little bit. It was like, all right. It went on.
Well, I think that's commendable that you've been able to find a way to not whoop people's ass.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like confrontation. And when I say that, people hear, "Oh, he's afraid of confrontation." I'm not afraid of confrontation. I don't like it. I will confront you about some shit. I don't like that I have to do it.
Right.
But I will. So, yeah.
So, we're currently on your show, OTAP show.
The OTAP show.
On the Air podcast.
On the Air podcast starring you.
So, this is not really a new concept, but it's a reborn concept. So you've done this before, which I wasn't around at this time, so I don't really know the history, but you've done a show where you've interviewed people in the past. So just give a little history about that for people who may not know.
All right, so this was an IC born type thing. It was basically on that message board, excuse me. I would just interview random people, and I'd learn then that everybody had a story. And I would just do the interview, and I'd post it. The moderators would sticky it to the page, and so it'd be there for a week, and they would come up. I had that agreement.
So it was like live, but recorded interviews?
No, it was just messages back and forth, like reading in a magazine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I had the agreement with the moderators. I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Would you mind sticking this for a few days? They would even leave it up for a week. That was cool.
Okay.
And I would interview people. And what was cool about it is they leave it up, and the point behind it was so that other people can read it and ask their questions also. Mm. And I learned a lot about people. Shout out to China, interviewed her. She will not do a podcast though. I've interviewed, there's a couple of people. I wish before that site, like they revamped it, I wish I could have been able to retrieve some of those old interviews because they were great. Like I learned a lot about people in those and how everybody had a story, which I'd always thought about. People would ask, "Hey, won't you bring back your interviews and won't you bring back this?" And I was like, "I'll see." I wanted it to be revamped. I wanted it to be something modernized for the times. So yeah, that's kind of what that was. People, I do it. We do it like in the PMs at the time, private messages, go back and forth, and the core remained. I let them see it. If there was something that they didn't like or they want me to take out, let me know. Take it out. Complete trust in that. I wanted you to realize I didn't want it to be one of those things where it was about gossip, or it was about the hot topic, or it was something to something controversial. If something controversial came up, it was because you brought it up.
Right.
There as an interviewer, sometimes I can only ask the question. You decide whether you want to answer it or not. And if you want me to edit it out later, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I knew that it was kind of something nice when I saw other people trying to do their own versions of that, which is, it was kind of cool. Like, everybody know where that came from,
right?
It was cool. Imitate. What's that? What's the phrase?
Imitation is a form of flattery.
Yeah. So they had
greatest form of flattery or something like that.
They had their own version, so it was cool. I never really was like, that's my thing. You can't do it. I just was like, that's nice. So that's kind of where that concept started from. I would do that. I would have those interviews posted every Tuesday, and I would do that every week for 2 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The only week that I missed was this week where my mom was in the hospital. I did it every week for 2 years.
I almost forgot to bring something up. Maybe we'll close out with this.
Hey, it's your show today.
So last year, you had a really scary period.
Oh man.
we weren't technically dating yet, but we were.
You were still in that whole that.
Okay,
you were,
we get into all that. Okay,
no, you were in that,
we ain't got to talk about.
You were in that wishy-washy phase. You didn't really, you what's the word I like to use? You were not indecisive, inconsistent, and I kind of had to let you know that I noticed that you were being inconsistent, and I needed you to make a decision.
So anywho,
Mm-hmm.
This is like early in the summer.
Yep, it was late May.
Late May.
I was in Phoenix at the time for work.
Yeah, you were in the hospital, and you had been diagnosed with a very serious condition that has or will potentially, impact your life, the rest of your life. So, if you don't mind going into that a little bit.
So I didn't know what it was at the time. For about 2 weeks, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the sound, like when water goes down the drain, how that the last bit of water, that gargling sound. Mm-hmm. I would wake up in the middle of the night. If I breathe in, that's the sound it would make. Did that for about 2 weeks, had no idea what it was. And I was becoming increasingly short of breath. I would take laundry from the wash house to my home, and I'd be so short of breath. I'm thinking maybe I'm just out of shape. Whatever. I couldn't really understand it. Could only go a few feet without having to take time to like really breathe and I would get winded. So what happened was I was in Phoenix for work, and it was still happening throughout the day. And I said, well, I'm going to this barbecue later. It was this little birthday get together. One of my coworkers was throwing some steak on the grill, and I was like, all right, I'll go by there. I was in town for a training. I was like, I'll go by there and check it out. So I was like, well, let me stop by this urgent care. I was thinking, well, maybe they're just going to give me some medicine or whatever the case, and let's see what it was. So I went in there, and they ran the same test like 3 times, and like I felt bad for the dude because I guess the readings on the test suggested that I was either having a heart attack or should have had a heart attack or did have a heart attack.
Wow. And
he was like, how do you feel okay? And he had, so I was like, yeah, I'm fine. What's up? So he went out and he told, like, I guess he was like the nurse. So he went and told the doctor. And the doctor was like, he was like, you must have did something wrong. And told him to go back and run the test again. So they plugged me back up again, the EKG. And he ran the test again, same thing. He went back to him and I could hear him. He was like, no, you must have done something wrong. And the dude was like, look, I ran the test twice. This is right. If you want to see it for yourself, go and run it yourself. So I almost cost him a job. So he went in, ran the test, looked at it, and he was like, you feel okay? I was like, yeah. He was like, what are your symptoms? And I was like, well, I feel this like gargling sound or whatever. They couldn't see the fluid in my chest when I stood up because it would go down. Mm. So when they did x-rays, they didn't see it. Mm. But he was able to hear it after I laid down for a little while. He did an x-ray of my chest and saw that my heart was, the way he said enlarged. So of course I'm thinking it's the worst thing in the world. Come to find out it wasn't as bad, but it was still a little bit larger than what it should have been, and pumping a lot faster. He put the little pulse thing and oxygen thing on my finger, and he saw that as I moved, my heart rate would go through the roof, and my oxygen go down, which is completely opposite.
Right.
Or at least my oxygen shouldn't go down. So then he was like, look, we need to send you to the emergency room. I was like, all right, that's cool. Where is it? And I was like, no, we need to take you. I was like, I got a rental car outside. What's going to happen with the rental car? And he was like, look, we got bigger problems in that rental car. I was like, okay, well, where is the hospital? He was like, it's 5 minutes down the road. I said, okay. I'll drive down there and go. I was like, because I feel fine. He was like, okay. So he made me sign some papers that said, hey, you're not going to get in this ambulance. We're not going to be liable. Fine. Okay, cool. So I drove he gave me this pass to go to the front of the line. So I drove down there, went in there. They ran more tests. They still couldn't figure out what. I didn't get diagnosed with congestive heart failure until I got back to Atlanta. But there's a nurse in Phoenix that there's two people I can attribute to me still being here today. There's quite a few people in between that really looked out for me and really called and checked on me and to make sure I was doing well and all those great things. The first person is Dee. I did an episode of her part. We did the travel episode. I was just tweeting about it, just random, how I was feeling. She said you need to go to the hospital. I was like, I ain't going to the hospital. She was like, just go, and if it turns out to be nothing, then all right, cool, everything's cool. But if it's something, then great. So I went because of her, and there was a nurse there. I never forget her name was Janet. We're about close in age. I was like, I gotta go to work tomorrow. And what am I, I gotta, I don't want, she's like, you may have to stay overnight. I was like, I ain't got time to stay overnight. And she was like,
typical man fashion.
Yeah. I was like, I feel fine. So she came back in the room and she was like, she kind of explained to me what was going on. She brought the heart thing and the little statue or sculpture, whatever, and showed me how the, what you show your students. And she showed me what was happening on the chart and how this could affect. And she said, look, because I already told the doctor, I'm going to just go ahead and go. She came back in the room and stopped me. She's like, look, here's what this is. And here's what they want to do. I can't stop you from going, but I want you to understand the magnitude of what's happening. And she's so patient, and she was so sweet, and she was like, "Yeah, so just you should probably." She's like, "I think you should probably stay and let them look and run some tests to find out what it is." She gave me an idea what she thought it might have been, but she said, "I'm not the doctor," and so I stayed because of her. And had it not been for those two, I probably wouldn't be here. She gave me her number and she said, any question that you might have, text me or call me, I will answer them and all of that. She really cool Hispanic lady. So I stayed and over the weekend and they ran the tests and gave me some medicine. My blood pressure was like super high and I was there over the weekend, did not get to run the training. The job understood. I was always worried about the job. My director called and made sure I was fine and, kind of kept me up to spirits. So people came by and, hung out with me. So that was cool. I got home and saw my primary doctor who introduced me. He referred me to a cardiologist specialist. And he was one of the best in Atlanta. So I was feeling really good about that. So I've been going back. He was the one that diagnosed it with congestive heart failure. What congestive heart failure means is it is a very serious condition. But let me kind of give some background on what it means. Your heart pumps in blood, pumps in fluid, pumps out fluid through the ventricles. And with any muscles, because my heart was being overworked, with any muscles, it'll grow bigger. That's not necessarily a good thing for your heart. So the valves were leaking in fluids, and that's what the gurgling sound was. Because it was leaking it in, because the valves weren't closing because they were expanded. So he put me on some medicine. He said, "We're going to beat this." He said, "It's likely caused because of your high blood pressure." And at the time, I was probably about 311 pounds. I gained a lot of weight in a short period of time. Probably in about a year or two. I didn't realize I'd gained that much weight, but it's what attributed to it. So he put me on this plan, and he ran these different tests and on his medicines to help drain the fluid out. And so that's for those next couple of months. I took 2 weeks off of work. He was like, "You can't have sex for the next 2 months." I was like, "Doc, come on, man. What you mean 2 months, bro?" It's like, "Hey, you got to get his 10% chance to work. I don't want you doing anything extraneous. You can't have sex with him." He was like, after a month, when I went back in there, he was like, "Yeah, just come back in a couple weeks. We're going to look and see how you are. We'll revisit it." And it was he's like, "Yeah, everything's good. I'm good. You're trending in the right direction." I was like, "But Doc, can I get back in the game, coach?" He was like, "Yeah, you can get back in the game. But don't do nothing too wild." I was like, "All right, cool, I'm back in the game." So that was ahead of schedule. Since then, there's been a couple of, minor setbacks, but for the most part, I'm doing really well. Don't have as much short of breath. I just have to be sure to pace myself, do things at my pace. That's pretty much it. I was in the emergency room a few weeks ago. I'm not really sure what happened. My blood pressure was sky high. I thought it was about the heart failure, but they said that I was in 5%. Like, as far as heart failure was concerned, it was like 3 to 5%. So it had nothing to do with it. So that was great. There was no fluid or anything like that. It just blood pressure was super high. So the hardest thing now is just controlling my blood pressure. A lot of that has to do with losing weight also. I'm now down to, I think since then, my lowest I've gotten down to was 263. And I've gained some, so I kind of flip-flop between 268 and 273, something like that. Miles away from 311 pounds. So that's the good news in that.
Well, proud of you. You've been doing really good about being health conscious and
change the way I eat. I try to anyway. Yeah.
I know it's hard when you come to Chicago.
I completely give up when I come to Chicago because everything is great.
But yeah, it was a scary time for me. I mean, we weren't like I said, we weren't serious. Yeah, we weren't dating, but we had really become close friends. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was a scary time. But
I was really shocked by knowing how much you cared and how much other people cared. Like, I felt like people would be like, "Oh man, that sucks," but I didn't really expect to have an outpouring of care.
Yeah,
which is what happened.
Yeah,
which was really cool and inspiring.
And it was one of the motivating factors of me expressing to you about my views of work-life balance. You were a workaholic. I think you just see for yourself that there's a need for it.
Yeah.
But you were a workaholic. I mean, you would work all day, you would go home and work and stay up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and work.
Yeah.
And then when you came to visit me that one time, you worked. And I was just like, "Yo, put the laptop away." So,
put the laptop away and put me on, goddammit.
You just can't stay professional. So, yeah, but for me, it was a learning process for me of just being more mindful of checking on the welfare of people that you love. I think that there's so many sicknesses and illnesses that are silent. The symptoms are silent. Mm-hmm. Them killing you can be silent. We just lost a dear friend to our family last week. She was up moving around. We had saw her that Thursday evening, and that Friday she just dropped dead. And we went to her funeral this past Saturday. So it just has really, that situation, just something being so, that I felt was close to home. It helped me to understand that, checking on the welfare of others is a need, is something that we need to do more often. It also had me to understand that men, especially our black men, because a lot of the sicknesses and diseases that you guys get are just a lot more aggressive in how they affect the body. Just, we need to be more health conscious. We're not all going to be, stripped and shredded and look, but we can practice more healthier practices. So I kind of fell off myself, but I never let myself get too out of hand. I think that when I had my moment of realizing I had gained so much weight and like looking back, like, wow, how did I let myself do that? I have my moments now. Like, I haven't really been working out like I should, but I never let myself get crazy with my eating or with my diet, because that's number one. You can work out every day, but if your diet is trash, it doesn't matter. So I never let myself get too out of hand with that. But I mean, just seeing how you haven't let that stop you. You've been doing really good. So I'm happy about that.
I try to stick around for a couple more days,
Hopefully longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was good.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Is there anything that you want to, cause just what you usually do, tell people if there's anything they want to plug or anything people should be looking out for, or just...
Yeah, you guys should definitely look out for the OTAP show. OTAPshow.com. Follow the show on Twitter at OTAP Show. Tell a friend. Just tell one person. That's all I need you to do. If everybody can just tell one person about the show, leave your 5-star comments on iTunes. That really helps the show grow, so we can become a force, build us a pirate ship, take over. And let me see what else. Is there anything else I want to plug? Look out for some really cool episodes coming up.
Well, good. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did too.
I think I need to do this more often.
You need to get your own show.
Don't nobody want to listen to me.
Oh, well, why did I just have you on now? Nobody want to listen to you.
I mean, they kind of don't have a choice. We forced them to.
Yeah, you definitely welcome to come back here almost anytime you're ready.
Aw. All right. Well, that was a good show.
You repeat what I just did.
Whenever.
I said almost anytime. I was just fucking with you. Yeah, we'll do this again. We'll probably collaborate and interview other people and see how that goes.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thanks.
I'd like to thank our guests for coming on today. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to otap@writeme.com. Follow the conversation on Twitter by searching the hashtag OTAP. That's OTAP, or following us on Twitter at OTAP Show. You can find the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Android users can find the show on Podcast Republic. Just download the app and search OTAP Show. On behalf of our guest, I'm your guest host, Pinky, and you can find me on Twitter at Pinky_Balboa. And we'll see you back here next week on the Air Podcast starring you.